Raider Nation, what's going on? Coming up here on the Raiders Report, I'm going to give you an updated look here at a brand new Las Vegas Raiders 53-man roster projection after their preseason game against the 49ers. The way that I'm doing this one is not so much the 53 players that I would keep, it's the 53 players that I believe Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler will have on the roster. If you're looking for coverage around the silver and black every single day, make sure you got the subscribe button clicked and make sure you got the notifications turned on. So as soon as we drop a video, you get a little alert here on your phone. You click on it, and you can be one of the first people in there. Believe it or not, it does help me and Chugs out quite a bit. All right, so the way that we're going to do this, we're going to start with the quarterbacks, and we're going to roll all the way through. And I love these brand new pictures that we got here from the Raiders. So as it stands right now, you got Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, Aidan O'Connell, and Chase Garbers. These are the four quarterbacks on the roster as it stands right now. The numbers that you are going to see next to the Raiders players is me just literally counting out the 53-man. So the three quarterbacks that I'm going to keep, it's no surprise, and it shouldn't surprise anybody. It's Jimmy Garoppolo, Brian Hoyer, Aidan O'Connell. So the numbers, again, is me counting out to the 53-man roster. So quarterbacks done, easy, no problem. What about the running backs? Because this is where I do think it can get a little bit more difficult. You got Josh Jacobs, who still has yet to sign the franchise tag. Zamir White, Ameer Abdullah, Jakob Johnson at fullback. Do the Raiders even keep a fullback this year? Then you got Brandon Bolden, Sincere McCormick, and Britton Brown. Typically, I have been keeping 4 running backs and a fullback. And this go around, guess what? I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to keep another 4 running backs and a fullback. However, I personally would not keep Brandon Bolden. I would cut Bolden. I'd save the $2.23 million. The reason why I think that they're going to keep him, though, is he's just that player coach that they like. He's good in special teams. He's a good pass blocker. Though if it was up to me, I would keep Sincere McCormick over Brandon Bolden. Unfortunately, though, I don't make the calls here for this organization. However, though, here's going to be a question that I really need y'all to share your thoughts on down below. What is the likelihood that Josh Jacobs is on the Raiders this upcoming season? And I want you to scale it from there is a 0% chance that he's on the team to a 100% chance that he's on the team. If it was up to me, I would put this at a 95% chance that Josh Jacobs is on this roster. And you know what? We're going to make the pinned comment, so there's no excuses for you if you don't answer it. You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break, so scroll on down and let me know. Let's go to the wide receiver room now. Davante Adams, Jakobi Meyers, Hunter Renfrow. That's pretty easy if you ask me. But there is a lot of talent on this wide receiver room. I mean, there is, right? Like, there's a good talent from quick, twitchy receivers, the guys that can play in the slot. There's some bigger dudes. I thought Keelan Cole had himself a hell of a game against the Niners. He was one of my biggest winners. But to me, when you still look at the offensive line, when you look at the defense especially, I can only keep 6 receivers. And you're going to keep Renfrow, Meyers, and Adams. And then I'm going to keep Tre Tucker, DeAndre Carter. Carter's going to be used more in special teams. Tucker already showed you the burst and his athletic ability. You saw it in that first preseason game. And then the Raiders like Phillip Dorsett. He has connections with the team, and he's done a lot of good with this organization. So Phillip Dorsett is a name to keep in mind. Let's go to the tight end group now. Austin Hooper, Michael Mayer, Jesper Horsted, Jacob Hollister, Cole Fotheringham, and then Schnenker. Cole Fotheringham this past week had 5 catches for 70 yards, and I was very impressed by the big man's ability to not only catch the football, but lay a few blocks as well. Mayer's going to be the main tight end. Hooper's going to be right up there with him, and the Raiders moved on from O.J. Howard because they like Horsted. So for that reason, I am only going to keep 3 tight ends on this 53-man because I need to save some room for the players on defense. Let's now go to the offensive line. And for those of you that are watching this live, we do have an update here that I do want to put in our news segment. The Raiders have placed offensive tackle Brandon Parker on IR, and they actually just went out and signed wide receiver cornerback Isaiah Zuber, so just keep that in mind. However, for the offensive line as it stands right now, Parker was somebody that I was going to put on this 53-man. The problem with this whole thing now is if Parker's not going to be in, I would rather that the Raiders roll with a McClendon Curtis. And you could put Parker on the IR and maybe he just misses, I don't know, the first 4 games of the season, which is a possibility. Now, if they put him on the IR again, then he's done for the entire year, which honestly for Parker kind of sucks because he got injured last season as well. But to me, I am going to go about this as Parker's injured. I'm going to put McClendon Curtis in now over Brandon Parker, and you might have to make a few moves in and out because of the flexibility of offensive linemen from offensive tackle to also players that have the ability to play guard as well. Miller, Parham, Andre James, Alex Bars, Jermaine Illuminor, those players are going to end up making it. Again, I would not start Bars at right guard, but it does seem that this organization likes Bars a lot more. Van Roten, Natane Moody are players that I'm going to keep. Thayer Munford, Greg Van Roten, and then I'm going to add the UDFA McClendon Curtis. The bottom line here is this, that the Raiders are only going to keep 9 offensive linemen. Like, the more and more you look at the defense, the more and more you just got to have that understanding that with Carmen Brasillo, who is known to be a very, very good offensive line coach, you need to be able to create that flexibility on defense a little bit more. So the 9 offensive linemen that I am keeping here for the Raiders are the ones that are pictured. And for a 53-man roster, 26 on offense, that means I'm going to keep 27 on the defensive side of the football. Before I show you the defensive players, remember, if you want to be able to bet on the Raiders this upcoming season, NFL games, if you're like, Mitch, I want to bet on baseball, you can bet on baseball. You want to bet on the NBA when it comes back, you can bet on the NBA. I think you can bet on just about everything minus the Little League World Series. And if you bet on the Little League World Series, I question a lot of things about you. But we got an awesome deal right now with our sports book. Shout out to BetUS. You can go to chatsports.com/Raiders. Promo code Raiders125. You're going to get 125% deposit bonus, which means when you're a first-time depositor at that link that you see below. Let me say this right now. If you don't go to that link and you don't use that promo code, you ain't getting 125% deposit bonus. It means if you put down $100, you get $125 for free to bet with. Right now, the Raiders are plus 1,400 odds to win the AFC West. Risk $100, you can win $1,400. Shout out to BetUS for hooking up the nation. All right, let's now look at the Raiders' defense and my 53-man in terms of who I'm going to end up keeping here. As it stands right now, the Raiders' defensive end depth chart, Crosby, Tyree Wilson, Chandler Jones, I do think are the only players that are a lock to make it as it stands right now. And the only other player that's not featured on this depth chart is Agoa and then Carlos as well, which I had to move around some graphics, and that's why you're not seeing them pop up. But George Tarlas is also on this depth chart. I also know Ibuka Agoa is on this depth chart as well. Believe it or not, there's not 2 Jordan Willises out there. But for the first time this year, I am going to keep a player that I have never kept before, and it's going to be Malcolm Kuntz. So I actually talked to a source after the 49ers game, and they were like, hey, they really like Malcolm Kuntz. And he continues to go out there, and he's showing out. He's playing well. He looks like he's in better shape. And even though I like Adam Plant Jr. a lot, the way that the Raiders might take this is they say, okay, Adam Plant Jr. might not get signed by another NFL team if he's on our practice squad. However, Malcolm Kuntz won't want to be on the Raiders practice squad. He'll say, I want to go play somewhere else. Give me another opportunity. But the second year in the Patrick Graham system, also Jordan Willis' ability to play inside and outside at defensive tackle, I think is why he gets the nod. And these are the 5 defensive ends that I'm keeping. Let's now go to the big guys up the middle here at defensive tackle. And this is going to be another room that I am really, really looking at closely because there is so much competition. Bilal Nichols guaranteed to make it. The rookie Byron Young guaranteed to make it. After that, there are no guarantees. Now, sure, there are certain players that I'm willing to bet on end up making this 53-man roster, but because I went with 5 defensive ends, I'm actually going to go with 5 defensive tackles as well, where I've kind of been doing the 4 defensive ends, 6 DTs thing, but this one is more about what I think McDaniels and Ziegler end up doing. So Bilal Nichols, Jerry Tillery, Byron Young, Neil Farrell Jr., and yes, I am keeping Nesta Jade Silvera, which means I am moving on from Matthew Butler, a player that I've heard not too much good about this offseason. He has gotten better in training camp, But at the end of the day, man, you got to look at who's best going to help you win football games, and these defensive tackles will help you do that. Let's now go to the linebacker room here. Robert Spillane, Divine Diablo, Luke Masterson. And then after that is where the competition does really get started. Amari Burney is going to make the roster because the Raiders drafted him, but he's still battling it out with Darian Butler, Drake Thomas, Curtis Bolton. Continues to impress me. He had a great game against the San Francisco 49ers. However, I am only going to keep 4 linebackers with this Patrick Graham defense, and I'm going to roll with Spillane, Diablo, Amari Burney, and Luke Masterson. If that list of names surprises you, well, then you don't watch this show very often, right? I do think Bolton is a good player. I wish him the best. I do think that a guy like Darian Butler, I wish him the best. But at the end of the day, man, I got to keep these 4 linebackers because that's just what makes this Raiders defense the best. All right, let's go to the cornerback room now, where Jacorian Bennett, Nate Hobbs, and Marcus Peters, these will be your starting corners on the Las Vegas Raiders. And once the Raiders put out their brand new depth chart, there were some players I was definitely surprised to see how far down that they had there. Like a Duke Shelley was down there pretty far. David Long Jr. was down there pretty far. And I know that this team likes Tyler Hall. However, this is the first time all year that I do not have Tyler Hall on my 53-man roster projection, and I'm just going to tell you it's because they like other players, I think, a little bit more. So I'm keeping Peters, Hobbs, and Bennett. And then, yeah, I'm going to keep Amik Robertson in this mix because he's played well. He's working with the ones right now. They like his versatility. And kind of like what I said about Malcolm Kuntz, it's that ability to go in and out, and his ability to play outside and inside. Also, we do have an update here on Brandon Parker. He is actually done for the year. He suffered an injury. He is done for the season. Duke Shelley and then David Long Jr. However, I do want to throw out another name here, Brandon Faison, where I could see the Raiders putting Faison on the short-term IR list, which then it means he's going to be out the first 4 weeks of the season, and you don't count against the 53-man roster. It is something to keep in mind. It is something that I could see the Raiders doing, and if they end up doing that, then the player that I think that they end up moving on from, where you put Brandon Faison on your roster, that means then you'd probably move on from David Long Jr. However, these were 4 cornerbacks that I was battling with. Like, out of these 4 names right here, who are you keeping? Are you going to keep a David Long Jr. type DL? Are you going to keep a Brandon Faison type BF? Maybe you decide to keep Sam Webb type SW, or are you going to keep Tyler Hall? I want you to type TH. Let's now go to the safety room here. Marcus Epps, Trevon Merrick, locked and loaded. Those are your top 2 safeties. Then the final 2 spots come down to the other 4 players here. Roger Teamer, Chris Smith, Isaiah Polamayo, and Jaquan Johnson. Let's get it straight, though. Chris Smith, the rookie out of Georgia, he's a lock to make it. So that means it's between Isaiah Polamayo, Jaquan Johnson, and Roger Teamer for the final 3 spots. Roger Teamer played over Polamayo this past preseason game, but I'm going to go with the upside. I'm going to go with the player that's better in coverage. He's 6'4", offers you a lot more versatility, and these will be the 4 safeties that the Raiders keep because they can also use Polamayo in as a linebacker safety hybrid, which means that's how we're going to round this thing out. Daniel Carlson, A.J. Cole, Jacob Bobbin Moyer for number 51, 52, and number 53 of my Las Vegas Raiders brand new 53-man roster projection. And anytime that the Raiders get done playing a preseason game, I'll try to always do these at least once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. It just kind of depends how it goes. But the last one I did was so different compared to this one, and it's going to continue to change and change and change because the Raiders will continue to make moves and moves and moves every single week. And if you don't already know, if they make a big enough move, we'll be live here on the show, so hit that subscribe button. All right, y'all, so who did I leave off my list? Let me know right now. There's got to be somebody. You're like, Mitch, I can't believe you don't have that guy in your 53-man roster. And the answer to that is, yeah, you're probably right. Who did I leave off my list? Let me know down in the comments.